Um, my name's Joe, and this is Carla, co-founders of Cycle CPA, and we're happy to have Greg Garcia
Yeah,
joining us here from Rancho Mesa Insurance Services. Thank you
that's
for
right.
joining us, Greg.
Yeah,
Yeah, Carla Joe, thanks for having me here. Yeah, Greg Garcia here. Over at Rancho Mesa Insurance. We're insurance agency based out of San Diego. My dad owns the company. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary here, and kind of how we got linked up with Carla and Joe is that I'm an insurance agent, but I also just specialize in the landscape industry. So I'll kick it back over to Carla and Joe and see where we're going to go from here.
Awesome, very nice. And um, we saw that you guys are very involved within the industry, National Landscape Association, um, stuff like that. I guess um, and this is definitely a common thing that we see, a lot of questions in regard to insurance. So if anyone here in the group has any questions, now's your time to ask it, whether you're just starting out in business or whether you have an established business and looking for ways to really improve on that side. But I guess, to start off, Greg, what do you see as maybe some of the biggest frustrations in regard to insurance?
Yeah, definitely. And this might help provoke some people out there that are maybe watching to relate to some of these issues. So a couple of big key factors we find when we're talking to different prospects and different clients of frustrations in the insurance industry is they're getting last minute renewals, right? So your X date comes up June 1st and you're seeing the renewal the last day of May. And it's now you got a last minute decision to make, rush decision, and business is not done that way. So we try to understand that, and we don't do that with our clients. The other thing would be, yeah, just like no planning or budgeting as to what the insurance is going to look like for the upcoming renewal. Whether do we see it maybe possibly going up in premiums or down in premiums? And I know you guys do a lot of budgeting over there, Joe and Carla, and that's insurance is an overhead cost. You're going to have it every single year. So it's important for the business owners and business decision makers to understand what that overhead potentially could look like. And for me, as an insurance advocate for my clients, that's part of my job is to help them kind of navigate through that budgeting system. They can ask me questions and I can give them my best professional advice, knowing I only focus on landscaping. So I know the marketplace pretty well. The other thing would be the experience mod. And why is my experience mod going up? And your experience mod is basically the rating bureau gives you of how well you perform, how well you handle risk. So sometimes you can see a jump in the experience mod and frustrated with why is it going up? I don't understand. I had a really good year this year. I didn't have any claims this year. Why is my experience mod going up 20 points? I don't understand that. And then another one would be just kind of, okay, on top of that, how would I lower my experience mod? What are some things that I could do? I'm an agent, I'm a broker, but I feel like we bring much more to the table than here's your quote once a year and we'll see you next year. We'll see you in 12 months type of thing. We want to partner with our clients and really try to help them lower any risk management that they could have. So that's kind of a brief overview of some of the frustrations. If there's any questions out there or anything you guys have, Carla or Joe, I'm open. And I have some things that I'll share in a second here as we continue on.
I guess one of the biggest things is, have you seen some common items within this industry where you're like, okay, you need this type of coverage within your insurance package? And what are some of those common types of insurance coverages?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So there's two forms of coverage here. You have your work comp, which everyone has, everyone gets work comp, and then you have your package or your liability lines. And in those package lines, you're usually going to see general liability, property, inland marine, auto, and excess. Those 5 lines are usually associated with your package, pretty standard for most insurance policies. Here at Rancho Mesa, we're talking about four more policies that we recommend every single year to our clients and prospects moving forward, because there are some gaps in that initial package policy. And the 4 recommended coverages that we advise would be a professional policy, a pollution policy, cyber policy, and an EPL, employment practice liability policy. Those 4 are something that we talk about basically every renewal cycle with our clients and prospects, because we do see that they're important for various reasons. So those would be the 4 additional ones.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you mind diving into those 4 additional ones a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll start with employment practice liability. So an employment practice liability policy would cover claims arising out of sexual harassment, wrongful termination, wage and hour, those types of things. We're out in California, so we're seeing more of those claims pop up more and more. It's a very litigious state. So it's just a way for our customers to kind of protect the business and protect themselves for any claims arising out of that. Because your GL would not pick up a claim arising out of a sexual assault, abuse claim or wrongful termination. There's no coverage for that in your general liability. That would be covered on the EPL policy. The professional policy would be basically anything that you're doing for your work. So a general liability policy would picks up accidents, right? You're mowing the lawn and a rock kicks up and breaks a window at the house. Your GL policy would respond to that because you were mowing the lawn and you accidentally broke the window. That's what a GL policy is there for. A professional policy would be, let's say we have some clients out here that do some applicating, and you're applicating some lawns and you mix a bad batch and you kill 10 lawns. Okay. Well, your GL policy is not going to pick that up because that's your work. You guys are a professional landscaper. You are here to maintain this lawn and you killed it. Your GL policy would not respond, but your professional E&O, you made an error, you made a professional error, would respond to that type of claim. Pollution. This is a big one for us. We see it because on a GL policy, and I know this is a lot, by the way. So, but you asked for it, and I'm getting into it.
No, it's good to know.
Okay, yeah, and I can definitely, if somebody has any issues, I'm available, email, phone call, whatever. But pollution policy, why we recommend that to our landscapers is on a general liability policy, one of the exclusions is mold. Mold is not covered on a GL policy. So where we can see a gap with landscapers is we have landscapers out here that are doing irrigation installs into homeowners or commercial buildings. They're doing the irrigation for that homeowner or commercial property. Irrigation leaks, pipe breaks, water gets into that residential home and floods the house. Your GL policy is going to pick up to replace the chairs, the beds, the TVs, everything inside will get replaced on the GL policy. But let's say water gets into the wall and then it creates a mold. And then 6 months later, that homeowner's breathing in that mold and you have a bodily injury now because of that. Your GL policy would not respond to that because of the bodily injury happened because of mold, and mold is an exclusion on every GL policy. If you look at all your policies, you'll find mold excluded onto that. So that pollution policy would pick up that type of scenario. That'll also pick up accidental spills, gas spills, applicating spills, things like that, to be able to clean those things up. That would kind of fall into that category as well. And then the last one would be cyber, and I'm sure everybody's feeling this one. We get it every day here at Rancho Mesa, those phishing emails. Hey, Carla says click this link, Joe, it's really important, you better click it. And you click it, and now you're locked out of your system. We all know better than that, right? But I think we're seeing that more and more. And a cyber policy it's to protect those types of events, people hacking a system, locking you out of a system, and you're not able to access the system after that. So that's kind of a long-winded, kind of brief synopsis of the 4. But any other questions on that? We can kind of dive into more of that later on or whenever.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I think one of the other items that comes up a lot is, within this industry, you have a huge investment into trucks, trailers, machinery, and equipment. What do you recommend for that? What kind of coverage do you recommend for, if something gets lost or stolen?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so for the and when we're talking with landscapers, we're talking with landscapers that have 25 units to 250 units. We have clients all the way in between. So large fleets, and that's the toughest market right now from an insurance standpoint. And I'm sure everyone out there that's watching would say, where are they seeing the most increases on their insurance premium? It's on that auto line of insurance, because it's just so difficult for carriers to price for that, because there's the $1 million claim out there every single day. You know, the bad accident, $1 million claim, and they're not gaining the premium they need to cover that exposure. So that's why it's really important to package all your lines together. That would be another thing, kind of going off cycle here really quick. But if any of you guys out there have your insurance program that is kind of monoline with 4 different carriers, it'd be advantageous of you guys to try to find one carrier to write all of those lines, because then that carrier can leverage a GL line to an auto line with the property and inland marine and get you better and more controlled pricing, because they can leverage other lines of insurance. Getting back to your question though, so yeah, auto policy would definitely cover all the trucks for comp, collision, and liability. Okay. Very important. It's a must-have for sure. If you're driving around, you need an auto policy. The other thing I want to talk about there too is on the trailers. We see a lot of policies that don't have liability on the trailers, because when you're driving a truck with a trailer, if it's attached, that trailer has liability because it's connected to the truck. But the scenario that could happen is, let's say the trailer gets a flat tire, and you got to take the hitch off the trailer, leave it on the side of the road. You're going to go get a spare tire back at the yard. And that trailer's sitting on the side of the road, and then it gets into an accident. A car hits that trailer. Well, that trailer no longer has liability coverage because it's detached from that truck. So it's really important to add liability coverage to all trailers that you have, and for very minimal premium on that. So that would be very important. A really good takeaway on that. From the equipment standpoint, that policy that would cover the equipment would be your inland marine policy. And there's really 2 buckets on an inland marine policy. There's your scheduled tools or scheduled equipment, and that's usually items that are valued over $2,500 that you want to schedule out. And then you have a miscellaneous tools bucket that would basically pick up all the small item tools that are valued basically below $2,500. So those are your kind of 2 forms of coverage on that as well. Yep.
Very cool.
A lot of info. You guys are asking great questions. And,
no, this is good to know. I mean, we get asked these questions all the time. And sometimes our business owners want to know that they have the right insurance. Sometimes they think they're overinsured. They want to save some money. But as far as budgeting and planning goes, how much, does that range for different businesses?
Yeah, no, another really good question. And yeah, definitely pricing is always something that we're trying to be competitive on for sure with our clients. Definitely, we're always looking to save as much as we can whenever we can. The one thing that we will never do here at Rancho Mesa is sacrifice coverage for better pricing. We just feel like that's not in the best interest of the company long term, because it really takes one mistake and then you have a gap in that coverage. And then there could be some serious impacts on the business. So pricing is always important to us. For us here at Rancho Mesa, coverage is the most important part. And by focusing on landscape, we have a pretty good idea of what needs to be covered. We're learning something new every single day, because this is all we're diving into. But to answer your question, I think that there's really 3 lines of coverage on the package side that are going to be your most costly. And that would be your general liability, your auto, and then your umbrella. And the reason the umbrella is in on that, and an umbrella policy, we'll kind of get into that really quick, goes over your general liability and your auto liability limits. It's kind of like a safety blanket. Basically, umbrella or excess goes over the GL and the auto. So those are the 3 lines of insurance that are going to be most premium bearing. Property and inland marine, for the most part, are relatively low in premium. Barring you have a $5 million equipment schedule and you have 7 buildings that you own, then it can get more pricey. On the work comp side, work comp is like GL. It's based off of payroll. So the larger you are in payroll, the more premium you'll pay. Unlike the GL, the work comp is impacted by the experience mod, which we talked about earlier in this conversation. The GL is not impacted by an experience mod. The GL is impacted by, are you controlling risk on those lines of insurance only? Are you having GL claims or are you not? That's kind of what's driving the cost on that. Auto, You could have no claims, 0 claims for 5 years, 10 years. You're going to see increases on those lines of insurance basically every year. And we're kind of telling our clients somewhere rough estimates of about 8 to 10% increases on those lines of insurance every single year. And when we're talking about those increases, we're not talking about total premium. We break ours out into cost per unit. We like to figure out what is everybody paid on average per truck for that organization, and we call it cost per unit. So we're thinking 8 to 10% increases on those units basically every year until this auto market kind of softens up a little bit. But it's just been very challenging to place that business too. And I have a couple of things on the, we'll keep going because I have a couple of things that I'll share. Maybe it might be better at the end to kind of wrap up that way. I can kind of just share my screen, but really, really good questions, guys. Awesome.
Yeah, no, and it's great to kind of dive into some of the specifics because I think that's really really valuable for whether people are just starting out or looking for other options. But we already do have some questions. I guess in regard to if you can just review, Greg. I know you had went over the 4 types of insurance that you see a lot of people not going into, but then also, can you kind of just give us an overview of what all of the insurance, would be?
Totally, absolutely. So we'll start, the easiest one's work comp, right? Everyone has a pretty good idea what work comp is. Work comp is covering all your employees for an injury that arises during the employee's workday. So they're installing irrigation pipe, they're bending over and they have a back strain, and they have to go to the clinic, and now they got to miss time because they have a strain in their back. Your work comp carrier will cover 2/3 of their wages for all the time that they have missed during that time. Or you can put them on modified duty. So the doctor says, hey, he's got a back strain, but these are the things he or she is able to do. So if you can create this modified duty, they can stay working, and then the employer the employer can continue to pay that employee's wages and really keep that claim away from the work comp carrier, which will help your experience mod. So the modified duty is really important. If you don't have that something in place, I'd recommend getting that immediately for sure. Getting employees back to work is really, really important. Keeping them off of temporary disability. General liability, we kind of touched on this earlier. That will cover any mistakes that you make, accidents, complete accidents, not auto accidents, but if you're working on somebody's yard, I think the example I used was you're mowing a lawn and a rock kicks up. Yep, breaks a window, that would be GL. You guys are maybe installing some trees on a property, and third parties walking their dog, and that tree falls over and trips that person and they get hurt because of it. GL would respond to that. It's a complete accident. Property would be if you own a building, they would have coverage for that building limit. So if a fire comes up and burns up that building that you own, costs to rebuild that building, materials and labor would be property. The other couple categories in property that come up would be business personal property, which would be everything that you own inside of that building. So desk, chairs, computers, anything in that building. If a fire comes in and burns up that building, you'd have a limit to replace those items. The other option in that, or the other thing that comes with property, would be business income with extra expense. Usually that comes from manufacturers, right? But we're all landscapers here. So if a fire burns our building up, we can still continue operations because we don't technically need a building. It's nice to have clerical staff in there and things like that, but operations can basically continue as is. Where it picks up for a landscaper is, let's just say you're paying $5,000 a month to rent that building and it burns up, and now you need to go relocate to another building. And now to find something comparable, it's $10,000 a month. That insurance carrier would pick up the additional $5,000 a month that you've incurred because the building burned up. And I hope this is all kind of, and this is a really quick overview, and it's a lot, but so stop me if none of that makes sense. And then inland marine, we touched on earlier, would be your equipment, both scheduled and unscheduled equipment. There's also another coverage called installation floater. So if we have any landscapers that do a lot of install work or construction-based landscaping companies, I'd recommend looking at that. In our inland marine policy is an installation floater. And basically what that coverage is it's covering property you have temporary possession of. So you're a landscaper, you're going to install 10 mature trees at this commercial site, and you put them in the trailer and driving them over to the commercial site. Well, if you were to get into an accident and those trees fall out and get damaged, your installation floater coverage would pick up to replace the cost of those trees to go buy new ones if you have the proper limits. And then auto, pretty self-explanatory there, is covering all your auto liability. So you're driving around, get into an accident, your auto liability policy will respond on that. And then as long as it's a company vehicle scheduled on the company policy and it's a scheduled driver. So really important to stay on top of who's driving for your company, really knowing who's driving for your company, and making sure that all the vehicles you use for company use are on a scheduled your insurance policy. And then lastly would be excess. And like we talked about before, the excess goes over your general liability and your auto. Really important to look at there. Sometimes when we're looking at new business opportunities, we're finding that to drive price down, sometimes the umbrella to drive price down will just go over the GL. So you need to make sure it's going over the auto as well, because that's your biggest exposure there, is for those couple $1 million claims can happen on the auto. So definitely look into that, into your insurance policy. And I'll just throw this out there now. If there's anybody that's having frustrations or has any questions, I'll give Carla and Joe my email. And if it's something, hey, Greg, can you just take a look at my policy? I would be happy to do that, not with no like, hey, you need to work with me. Let me just go through it, and to make any recommendations, see fit, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Awesome, Greg. And we do have some questions. So I guess first off, in regard to workers' comp and the coding of that, in regard to the difference between maintenance, like let's say cutting grass, for instance, versus maybe some of like the other landscape work. Have you seen anything in regard to those being coded properly, and when you first start working with clients?
No, great question. And that will vary by state. So in California, for example, what they do is they loop everything into the 0042 class code for maintenance and construction. I know outside of California, it can be different. Usually there's that 9102 class code, which would be your maintenance class code. And then 0042 would be your construction class code. So outside of California, it's really important to make sure you keep track of that. Not only it's good for your business, but for auditing purposes, right? Because if you have all your payroll into 9102 and you're a 90% construction landscaping company, then come audit time, you could see a pretty significant audit because you're in the wrong class code. And the 9102 class code will have a smaller net rate than that 0042 class code because it's maintenance construction. So, yep. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, because I think, I come across this question frequently, like, what do we request from the insurance agency to see what class codes are coded to which employees?
Yeah, to which employees, that should be on the employer to basically say, okay, crew 1 is my maintenance crew. We're going to put all of them in 9102. And then crew 2 is my construction crew. They're going to be 0042. I know there's some interchanging. So I know there's a lot of great softwares out there that can, help out with that. I think Aspire does a really good job doing that and helping employers kind of navigate through coding those. But I would encourage, everybody that's listening or watching to ask their broker right now, especially if they're a construction company, to see which class codes they're in. It should be on their proposal when they're going over the renewal. They should see different class codes for that. And on top of that, this is another really important tool, is on the general liability. It's broken out into 2 separate class codes. A lot of times when we're getting in on new business, because agents don't specialize, they will put all the payroll into the heavier class code, 97047, when really, just like work comp, there's 2 class codes. So 97047 is a construction class code for GL. 97050 is a maintenance class code for GL. And I hope when the people are listening right now, that it's not on them to understand that. This is why you have a agent or a broker or an advocate to help you navigate through that. This is my job, is to help them with these coding issues and things like that, or if they have any questions on that. The other thing they can do, if they're really not sure, is they can just contact their local bureau and say, hey, we're not really sure where to classify this employee. He does this. What would you recommend? And they go, oh, that's maintenance, or oh, that's construction. So yeah, really good questions.
Okay, got it. So there could be, so check your class code for workers' comp, but also for your general liability as well.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. We have another question here. Do all employees need to be listed as drivers on the policy?
Yeah. So what insurance carriers are looking for is on their driving schedule is for everyday drivers. Carriers understand there might be a one-off, right? Maybe this driver's filling in, but they never drive. He or she never drives for the company, but it's an emergency and they need to drive and they get into an accident. An insurance carrier is going to understand that. But it's really important to schedule those everyday drivers. And more importantly is running the MVRs on all those drivers. Every year, the insurance carrier is going to do that, but it should be kind of on the employer to do that as well. An MVR is a motor vehicle report. Excuse me. And what it does is going to say the driving record of that certain employee. So it's really important. Insurance carriers do not like drivers that are under 21 or have 3 years less of experience. So some employees could be 30 years old, but they've only been driving for a year and a half or had their license for a year and a half. So that's going to be a tough one for an insurance carrier to get behind. And then obviously driving record, do they have any DUIs? That's really tough. A big one, honestly, that carriers really shine negative light on is distracted driving. They really, that's a big no-no, almost as much as a DUI, really. Because there's just so many claims that arise out of, oh, I went to go get a drink of water. I sent a quick text message. So sorry, that was kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah, really important to schedule all your everyday drivers. Really important. And to constantly be in communication with your agent. If, hey, this employee no longer works here, or we just hired a new driver, before they start driving, make sure the MVRs are checked and the insurance carrier says, yep, that driver is good to go before they start driving. We don't want anything that can happen where somebody's driving before they get checked, get into an accident. Now they pull the MVR. They've had 6 DUIs or whatever, something crazy, and the claim's not covered because of that. So yeah, good question.
No, that's great advice.
And we have another question from Damien. He said, I recently changed insurance companies. The old company sent me an audit for the past 2 years after I canceled. Now they sent me an invoice for $1,600 for a premium adjustment. Is that legal?
Okay, so he switched insurance carriers, and for 2 years ago he got an audit, or was it last year? Was it the 21 policy year?
For the past 2 years. So I would imagine
did something that would be hard for me to really get into. I know you every year you're going to get an audit for the previous year. So like right now, all my clients are usually sending me their 2021 audits, even though we're in 2023. So that would kind of line up. And if they have any audit disputes, it's really important to sit down and look at what they're actually looking at and saying, and that's where there could be a misclassification. And you're saying, whoa, why'd you put all this payroll into 0042? I'm 100% maintenance. This is all I do. I don't do install. I don't do enhancements. There's got to be an issue here, especially if you're on what's called a pay-as-you-go option for work comp. That's what a lot of our clients like to do. And basically what that is every time the employer reports payroll, they send that to the insurance carrier. And then that insurance carrier would then send you a premium for that payroll reporting period. The other option is to be on stipulated payments, where you're just paying a down payment and then like usually 9 equal installments. And then, hey, at the end of the year, you guys did $500,000 more than we anticipated at the start of the year. You're going to owe more money at the end of the year after that audit. So It's hard to give a clear answer on that, but audits are definitely necessary for sure.
Absolutely. And looks like we got another great question from David. All of our trucks are equipped with Samsara GPS and front and rear facing cameras with AI technology and facial recognition to alert us for distracted driving. Will insurance companies provide discounts for them?
Yes, absolutely. And that's awesome. That is what can you answer what company or what are you using? What company is that for the GPS?
Samsara.
What is it?
Samsara GPS. Yeah. We have a lot of clients that use that one.
That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And we also work closely with IntelliShift as well.
IntelliShift?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to answer your question, absolutely an insurance carrier should be crediting that account. And really the onus is on the broker to create a proper submission for that policy. So a lot of times what we'll see with brokers is they'll get that and then say, here you go, insurance carrier. They have 25 trucks. Here you go. You rate it up. But what I would do is say, okay, I'd sit down. We'd have you fill out a fleet supplemental to talk about fleet safety, what you guys are doing, how often are you training drivers, things like that. One of the questions on our fleet supplemental is, do you have GPS? Yes. What does it register? Speeding, distracted driving. If the truck gets stolen, we can find out where it is. And then I would send that to the underwriter and saying, hey, for Rancho Mesa Landscape, this is why I think this pricing needs to be here. They take fleet safety very seriously. They have GPS on all of their trucks. They're doing driver trainings yearly. They check all their vehicles on their company rollout in the mornings. They're checking signals, tire pressure, brake lights, all that stuff. Absolutely, the insurance carrier will say, wow, this is really, really good. Absolutely. And it's not dollar for dollar, right? It's not like I can say, you're going to save $5,000 on your auto premium if you put GPS in your trucks, but there will be a savings for sure, more so than not. But it's on your broker to make sure they're relaying that information to the underwriter. And that takes additional work on my end, but that's what we're supposed to do. And that's what we do for all of our clients. Great question.
Very nice. And before we get going, please, if anyone else has questions, please type it in the comments. But Greg, anything else you'd like to leave?
Yeah. I'll share my screen really quick if you guys don't mind. I got about 4 things that I'll go through really quickly.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate everyone's time and joining, and this has been really fun for me. So I appreciate it. So I'll see if I can do this. See if I can share this screen. See if this works. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
We can see it.
Everyone sees it okay?
Yeah.
You see the land one? Is it we're all looking at the same screen? Let's see.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just really quickly a brief overview of myself. And maybe what I can do is I can email all these documents to Carla and Joe. And if you guys have any questions or, hey, let me see that PDF. They can email you guys the information. But this is just a brief overview of myself. We talked about all these coverages today. And then awesome. I just want to move on really quickly to that. We were talking about the frustrations in the beginning, one of which is, where's my experience mod? Where is it going and why is it going higher? For us, for all of our clients, you'll get this KPI dashboard, and these are all just sample numbers, but this is something that our clients and prospects have seen a lot of value into understanding where their experience mod is at and where it's going. If I dove into this right now, it'd probably be another 30-minute segment. So
for next time.
For next time, exactly.
Stay tuned.
Questions on that, feel free to reach out to me directly. But this is really, really nice, and our clients really appreciate it. We talk about this at all of our claim reviews. We're doing quarterly claim reviews with most of our clients, where we have a in-house claims advocate that's going to meet with our clients, go over any open indemnity claims that we have. We're talking about the KPI dashboard, and we're talking about where that claim may be going in the future. So touched on that really quickly. Let's see. Speaking of auto, I'm glad you guys brought this up. We just did a fleet workshop training out here in San Diego with Travelers Insurance, and it was a great workshop. We had a lot of landscapers show up to it. Not Rancho Mesa doesn't just write landscapers, but our little division does, me and my brother Drew. And then we have another guy that just does tree. So we're kind of all specialized in the green industry. But we had a lot of people show up to this. These are some of the takeaways. These are some of the notes that I took during this meeting. So I'll shoot this over to Carla and Joe. If anyone wants to get some more information on the auto market and why it's kind of hardening up, this would be a really good one to just kind of read through. We also recorded that webinar or that workshop as well. So if anybody wants to see that recording, just have Carla reach out to me and we can send you out that recording, no problem. Going through a lot of this, sorry guys. This one would be weekly safety tailgate topics. This is free to anybody. Joe kind of touched on it earlier. We're the endorsed brokers for NALP, National Association of Landscape Professionals. And if you guys want to sign up for this, you would basically get an email like this to your inbox every Tuesday. And it's going to be landscape specific as well as seasonal. So you won't get this preventing heat related illnesses in December or January. You'd be getting it probably right around now as the weather starts to heat up. What's nice about these is that one, it takes the job off of whoever your safety director is or whoever does the safety tailgate topics to find a topic for that day. It's just, you know, it's going to come to your inbox every Tuesday. It's available in English and in Spanish, which is really, really nice. And something that our clients really appreciate. And then the last thing we did was the #1 work comp claims for landscapers are strains, back strains, leg strains of some kind. And my background's in baseball. I used to play baseball professionally. So I knew the importance of stretching, but what we found with a lot of our landscaping clients is they're getting up early in the morning. They're usually on the job before the sun's rising or as the sun's coming up. And a lot of times they're not properly stretched before they get out and do that physical. It's hard labor. It's hard physical labor every single day. So we hired a personal trainer to create this program for our clients. And basically it's just a little 5-minute stretch that they can go through, make sure their bodies are loose and ready before the day's work. The nice thing about this, again, it's available in English, and then this one would be in Spanish. It has the description and the picture associated with it. That would be the one that you do at like the morning huddle. This one would be where we incorporated the truck. If employees are just going straight to job sites, they can use their truck to kind of stretch and get loose for the day. Again, available in English and in Spanish.
I like that.
Yep. So I can stop sharing.
I'm feeling a little guilty though, looking at that, Greg, because I'm sitting here. I'm like, I don't do a lot of those stretches. You know?
Hey,
I'm gonna have
to. Yeah, I used to play baseball, and I don't do stretches anymore. And I actually miss stretching. I'm looking at this. I'm like, maybe I need to get back into it, or I could create an office stretch for guys like us and you, Carla.
Definitely.
Office stretch.
Yeah, just keep the body loose. But that's basically all I have on my end, guys. And appreciate the opportunity to get onto this platform. And Carla, we connected a few months back. And if there's anybody that ever needs anything insurance related, feel free to reach out to myself or Carla and Joe, and we can all get in touch. Or if you just want someone to take a look at your insurance program, we could see if we're not a fit for everybody, that's for sure, but we could see if we would be a fit at some point.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing all of that insight. I can tell you're very knowledgeable and good at what you do, so I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys.
And I'll include your website. I'll put it right now. I'll put it in the comments for anyone. But and what's your email as well, Greg? That way people can reach out directly.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah, you could just say it that way people can note it down. But
okay, sorry. I forgot we were doing that.
No, it's all good.
It's pretty simple. It's ggarcia@ranchomesa.com. And then Carla and Joe, I'll email you guys just all these little kind of the PDFs that I shared in case anybody has any questions on those. And yeah, feel free to utilize us. And what Carla and Joe are doing is really special too. And something that's why I was kind of drawn to them, because they focus on the landscape industry. We've referred a couple clients over to them. And so hopefully all that works out well. I know they're in good hands with the industry specialists. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun for me. I appreciate the opportunity for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Greg. We really appreciate it. Yeah.